Hello, everybody. My name is Abraham Klein, and today I'm here with somewhat of a local celebrity now, Mr. Jack Maguire. Of course, he's always been a sort of a local celebrity here in Saltsburg, and he recently appeared on a television show on History. He used to call it the History Channel. Now it's just History, apparently. Called American Pickers, and we're going to get to talk to him about a little bit about his experience that he had with the guys, and all those other things, and anything else he wants to plug while he's here, because he's always into something. So, Jack, how are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Good, good. So, tell us a little bit about, well, lay the groundwork, just a small involvement of what you've been doing here in Saltsburg for who knows how many years now.
Well, I've been very active in the local historical society, and also very interested in the preservation of the historic structures in town. I'm a member of the local historic review board that consults with property owners who plan to make outside improvements to their property and give them suggestions on how to do it so it maintains its historic history.
Right.
And one time I was on borough council, borough manager, and I'm the owner of what's now the Point Street Tavern building, and involved in this nonprofit group called Townspeople Inc. We own the old Altman Mill and what we call the McElwain storefront warehouse, which locally has a misnomer name of Mule Bar. There's never any mules ever stored in that building. Yeah. Anyway, those are some of the buildings I've been involved in.
Okay, all right. And so, I mean, with you being involved historically in this town, with the historical preservation and all that stuff, so with that, you've obviously amassed quite a few antiques, collectibles, things like that. And so, eventually, people who would be interested in that kind of thing eventually came to town, and that would have been the American Pickers from History. How did that all come about that they even decided to come here?
Well, I believe it was in April, it was this spring, that the Pickers had an ad in the Indiana paper, probably other papers I'm sure, that they were coming to Pennsylvania. And anybody interested in being considered for a program, to contact them. Well, my wife Linda, my daughter Megan, they jumped right on that. They were all excited. And I was kind of neutral about it, but they seemed very enthused in pursuing that. So they did email to the Pickers, and nothing happened for a couple months, and thought, well, that was a bad issue.
So much for that, right?
And then they contacted, wanted some photographs, and then some more photographs, and it evolved into, they said, you've been chosen for an episode.
Nice.
So the episode occurred this past fall. Past
fall, okay. I don't know if you're held to any sort of secrets or anything like that you have to withhold or anything, but like, what was the process getting, I mean, once you've been chosen, the process leading to them coming to town, and I guess sort of go into what happened once they got here?
Okay, as far as the lead off, I mentioned we were contacted that they were interested in seeing more photos. So we knew that meant they wanted to at least look at us. So we sent pictures of various antiques that I've collected and the buildings we're working on that's owned by Townspeople Inc. And as time evolved, they finally said, you've been chosen.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, but you can't tell anyone.
Right, right. I remember hearing about that, yeah.
Yeah, because they said what can occur is they get a crowd and then they can't film because of all the interference.
Right.
In fact, they said if that occurs, we shut her down.
We're going to leave, yeah.
So we were very tight-lipped about the fact they were coming. But,
big secrets.
Yeah, I didn't know really what to expect, and I'm watching the program. I knew they appeared to be very down to earth, and that proved to be the case. Both Mike Wolf and his brother Rob were very down to earth, and the whole crew that worked that day, very easy to work with, and no issues at all.
Yeah, yeah. So once they got here, you know, this is obviously an on-the-scene program that they're filming. Like, were there a lot of production trucks? Was it a small thing, or how did all that look?
Yeah,
aesthetically, I guess.
I think they brought about 4 different vehicles. they had that van you always see on the
Right.
program. They also have a large camper they work out of and provides them with a kitchen and all the facilities they need. So there's roughly, I think, about 4 vehicles. And when they came to town, I said, what I'd like to do is introduce them to the mill before we get into the picking part because of the history of that building. And I really wanted to promote Saltsburg into the program, and they did a beautiful job, I thought, of taking that suggestion and running with it.
Yeah.
Because how we get nice coverage for the community.
For sure, for sure. I mean, I am one of the probably few people from this area who have not seen it yet. I don't have, I don't actually have cable, but my brother has it, so I'm going to be watching that very soon. So I have nothing to go off of as far as that's concerned. But I have watched many of their shows, and I know a lot of times they'll cover stuff like, you know, a little bit about the town or what they do and stuff like that. So once they actually got to the picking, like what are some things that they went through? And because I've never seen your barn, I've never seen where you store all that stuff in here. I've known you how long, Jack?
A long time. Well, we started off by, after we went to the mill, and I introduced them to the building and the equipment, I took them over to the Point Street Tavern.
Mm-hmm.
I might back up and say the mill, which was built in 1912. My restaurant building, which is now the Point Street Tavern, was built 1 year later, 1913.
Right. Yeah.
And I maintained all the inside furnishings that were there when I bought it. I had made a personal commitment to Mrs. Martin, the original owner. Martin family owned the building, it was called Martin's Restaurant. I said, I'm not going to destroy any of the architectural features inside. So I just love it the way it is.
Yeah.
So they took the pickers in through the tavern so they could see 2 of the rooms of the tavern, and they really were impressed with what they saw. Went out the back door and down into the basement where I had a number of things for them to pick that were mainly Coca-Cola and Hires Root Beer type items. So that's where the footage went to the basement of the restaurant, and they found some interesting advertisement type items down there. And after we were done picking through that basement, we proceeded up to the academy.
Okay, the academy then, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I had the bulk of the things that they were looking at. The biggest item was a 1957 Chevy 2-door hardtop, Maguire.
Right.
That so there's footage of that being dickered on, and a number of other items up there that they bought.
Yeah, yeah. So usually when you watch it, sorry about that. Yeah. So usually when you're watching the show, everything looks like it's happening so quickly, but for actual on real time, is it a lot longer? I mean, obviously it's gonna be longer, but is it a lot more meticulous in how they show it on TV?
It probably started on 10 a.m. Vehicle showed up, and it was after dark before the crew had everything packed up to leave.
Okay.
So about supper time it ended, and I was glad they agreed to go down to the tavern and have their meal and meet some of the people from the community that would love to meet them.
Yeah.
So they ate at one of those picnic tables outside the Point Street Tavern.
Yes, I remember seeing some people got some pictures.
And some people got to get their picture taken. It was a really nice community event.
Nice.
And they were very gracious about photographs and all afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. So, trying to think here, I kind of went blank there after I sneezed. All my brains went out, I guess. But getting back to all that with them, so they pick the stuff. A lot of times when you look at the show, that's what I was thinking. A lot of times when you watch the show, you have there's this one guy. Oh, he annoys me so much. The guy invites them in, and he gives these really high prices, and he doesn't ever want to depart with anything. But I think they've been to the guy's house 3 or 4 times. I can't remember his name now. But were there any sort of situations you're like, oh man, I don't know if I want to get rid of that, or was it pretty much?
Well, there was just one item where there's a little bit of hesitancy on my part, and that was with the car.
Oh, okay, the car, yeah.
Because I owned that since let me think, 1967. I was about 10 years old when I bought it, and I had it in storage since 1971. Always had the intent of restoring it. But I knew one of the biggest issues with that car was the frame was badly rusted. It would have to have a new frame on it. And I'm the type of guy, I didn't want to sell it to somebody I knew when I knew it had really serious issues, but it was restorable with in the right hands. And
Right.
I knew that Rob and Mike had experience with vehicles and had all the wherewithal to move it forward.
Yeah.
So I felt good about it from the standpoint that what I failed to do can now happen to somebody else.
Right. We were talking before we started, you know, you mentioned about being on Townspeople Inc. and whether for time constraints or whatever it was not mentioned. Were there any particular like picks that were not shown on the show, or was pretty much everything on there?
Yeah, a couple of things that they didn't show. I had a very old gas pump.
Okay.
Back in the day when it was a cylinder at the top that
Yeah.
you hand pumped gasoline up into, just had a 5-gallon.
Was that where you could see the gas inside of it and everything?
That's
okay,
it.
yeah.
Had one of those that I had my collection. Sold that. That wasn't shown. I had a jukebox from 1960s that I sold that wasn't on the show. Those are two main things I can think of. But it did move pretty fast.
Yeah,
through
everything.
that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There wasn't many
must have been a quick
lulls,
day.
you know.
Yeah.
And I know what you're saying about the program. I watch where people are very, I don't know what the right word is, not stubborn, just their prices are just too high.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I had the mindset that I wasn't into that at all.
Yeah.
If they gave me a fair price, I'd say yes. If I felt it needed a little bit of a boost, I'd suggest a little higher. But I was never greedy about it.
Right. Yeah.
And it worked out very well. It went smooth, and there wasn't any of that back and forth bickering.
Right. Well, I know one of Mike's famous catchphrases, if it's considered, is "What's the I don't want to sell it price?"
Yeah.
Did he throw that your way at all?
No, he didn't have to.
No. Oh, he didn't have to. So there you go. Yeah, he's had to use that quite a bit on there. So.
Yeah.
So it happened, right? You went through the whole day. Aftermath. Obviously, on the spot, they couldn't like move the car and stuff like that. Are there still things that they still have to get and things like that, or is that something that's
No, it's just that one item, the car.
just that one item? Okay.
And about a month after the episode, they had hired a guy with a large truck, enclosed truck, to take it away, and they did.
Okay. Yeah. So now with it being over, it's, you know, you had to wait all that time. Nobody's allowed to know that they're coming. Then they come here. Then you know, in some ways have to be kind of hush-hush about what happened. You know, I've been waiting since I heard about them coming. Man, we got to get a story about Jack Maguire on the Pickers. And so you know, once it's over, you've gone through all that. What's your feeling? You know, what's your feeling now that it's all over?
Well, the bottom line with me is that I was pleased that Saltsburg got some exposure nationwide. And that doesn't happen too often.
No, it does not.
And if I had an objective, that was it, and it worked out.
Yeah.
And not to diminish the sale itself of items that I had, that a lot of people will enjoy seeing and talk about. Because one of the things that they did on the program, there were some soda fountain items, for example.
Yeah.
They had some footage there of a soda jerk behind the counter doing all these things. And some of their enhancement with information like that was very educational to the audience.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one good thing about what they do on their show and other shows. I mean, they like, well, it's History Channel. They're supposed to show you the history of things.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So that worked out great.
Yeah. So all right. So I mean, you've officially been picked by the Pickers. Or is there still room for more Pickers to come by?
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah.
I'm at the point in my life that I need to be parting with some of my treasures.
Okay.
So I'll be willing to talk to people about items that I have.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the meantime, now that we've officially talked about all of that, you know, you did mention Townspeople Inc. and the Hardboard that you've been involved with all this time. If anybody would like to learn more about those things or ways to get involved or Stonehouse Museum, any of that kind of stuff, what's the best way that they can learn about that or get involved?
Well, they could email me. I
Okay.
give you my email address.
Okay.
It's my last name, spelled Maguire800 at Comcast.net.
Okay. All right.
And I'll be glad to interact with people if they have a question or something you see on the program.
All right. Well, that's good. Is there anything else I've not asked you about that maybe you've been waiting to mention that maybe I
I
forgot?
think you pretty well covered it, but as I say, I have gotten some really nice responses. There was-
Right. I didn't ask you about the responses. I'm sure the feedback was pretty
on
positive.
Facebook, with the help of Chuck Colton, who really initiated
He's our
a lot of
cameraman right now. So.
things that get the word out, and there were quite a few hits. There's over 1,500 shares, I believe, in it.
Yeah.
And then I got a couple personal cards, one from a classmate of mine from high school, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things like that.
All right. Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got stuff to do today, but I want to thank you for your interview, and we thank you folks for watching. Thank you, Chuck, for doing the camera.
You're
you
welcome.
can say hi back there. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we want to thank you guys for watching, and please share the word about what's been going on in Saltsburg. We recently had a guy come in from doing a YouTube channel. Now we have the pickers here. My goodness, a lot of cool stuff going on here, huh? So anyway, this has been Abraham Klein with Jack Maguire saying, "Yins, have a great day."